When you have finished your weaving, either finished your pattern or gotten really close to the top of your loom, it's time to cut the weaving off of the loom and finish it off. With the ends, the tail that we started with at the bottom with our first row of weaving, and the last row at the top, we want to tie those to the last and first warp strings. I already tied this one down here, and all you need to do is loop the yarn around the warp string and then put the end through the center of that loop and pull it tight. We can trim that off. And now we're ready to cut the weaving off of the loom. I'm going to turn the loom over on the back, and I'm just going to cut all the warp strings off of the loom. And I'm going to carefully pull these warp strings out of the notches on both sides of the loom. Now we're ready to tie the warp strings on either end. This weaving has more warp strings than second grade weavings, but the idea is the same. I like to start on the top, on the left, and find the two first warp strings, make an X, put one end through the center, and pull until I touch that last row of my weft, this green. I'm going to X, go through the center again, and now I'm going to pull that tight. I just go to the right and find the next two warp strings. Make this simple square knot and continue across the top. On this weaving, I have an uneven number of warp strings, so I have one without a partner. I'm just going to use the warp string next door and knot these two together, and that'll be just fine. Now I'm going to turn the weaving, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side of the weaving, finding the pairs, tying them together with that simple square knot. And when I get to the end, I'll have that extra one, and I'll tie that to the string next door. Now I can make some choices about how to trim these warp strings. I don't want to cut the warp strings right up against my weaving because that will cut the knots and it will come unraveled. So I want to leave a little bit of fringe. Also, a student suggested that two of them could be left long to actually hang the artwork, which I thought was a really nice idea. So I'm going to just balance to see which two strings of these long ones should be left long, and I'm going to tie those together. I think it's these two. I'm going to tie a square knot here on the end, and I'm going to trim all of the other warp pieces shorter. Now we have a finished weaving, which looks like a miniature rug, and we have the longer loop in order to hang this for display. I hope you enjoyed making your weaving. I look forward to seeing your work.